Everywhere you look, the advice is the same. Learn more skills, upskill, reskill, stay relevant. But here's the truth. Skills alone are becoming cheaper, faster, and easier to replicate. What's becoming rare is not competence, but coherence. The ability to learn quickly, adapt without losing yourself, and make decisions aligned with who you are becoming. This episode is about why skills are necessary but insufficient and what actually creates resilience in the age of AI. Welcome back to Loops Season 1. I'm your host, Josh Thompson-Prasad, co-founder of WorkSelf, and I'm here with my fellow co-founder, Wolf Magdalenic. Welcome.
Thank you.
Today, we're challenging the most common career advice of all time, not because skills don't matter, but because they're no longer the whole game. So, Wolf, tell me about the skills trap.
Well, automation and AI is really affecting a lot of really high-skilled jobs. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was an accountant for 20 years, and now it can be automated. It could probably be automated and, from a output perspective, done faster, better than I can do it manually from scratch. So what does that mean? Well, I'm not going to now pursue becoming a doctor, or will I? Why wouldn't I? Well, it's not about being able to acquire a new skill. I think a lot of people that are ambitious, capable, can get there. It's holistic view in terms of why do I really want that career path? And what is it about me, apart from skills, or what kind of skills am I honing in to differentiate in the marketplace where, people can do things with AI that they couldn't do before?
Yeah, and what are some of those markers, those differentiators? How do people make the decision about what skills they pursue?
Yeah, I think it's a competitive thinking in terms of what are my unique differentiators. Expertise can be acquired, knowledge can be acquired. In fact, in some ways, commoditized. So, what is a differentiator? Well, my ability to present insight, infuse my own point of view, and relate with that point of view, leading you to cite with me in ways that are, human to human, that are personal. So those skills that come on top of the intelligence or good analysis or digested reports are going to be more differentiated, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And how does that relate to what you personally choose as somebody who's moving through this kind of transition period? So you talked about, I could be a doctor now because I have the access to that knowledge. What other elements are there to consider?
Well, it's an opportunity, but it's also kind of biased thinking to think that I can be a doctor.
Right.
In my personal example, I could actually never be a doctor, but not because I cannot acquire new skills. I can't be the doctor because I can't see anything gory. I'm very,
Squeamish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And other career paths are also out of reach for me. For instance, I will often say this example. I loved working in a studio as a painter, and I think I'm having some artistic talent. But why I couldn't choose full-time artistry as a vocation wasn't because of the lack of talent or maybe the skill I can acquire and practice, different methodologies in painting. It was something else. It was actually my need as a person to work with continuous feedback and get feedback on my work that reinforces in my mind the feeling that I'm on the right track. Being alone in a studio without that feedback was something that's a complete showstopper for me.
Mm-hmm.
And through that example, I've learned that, there's hard skills, technical skills, but there's also self part in how do we feel performing certain action, or what are the, sources of our energy, happiness, and this kind of happy productivity or state of flow.
Yeah. I often think about when I first, kind of approached the university conversation with myself and asking myself, okay, what do I want to do? Like, who do I want to be? What path am I going to go down? And as somebody who went through school, in high school, I kind of shied away from the sciences and math and that kind of thing. And so I was like, oh, well, I'm a humanities kid. I'm going to be a humanities kid. So I'm going to pursue something in the arts. The limitation that I placed on myself just effectively cut off whatever it is, like 70 to 80% of my career paths right there, just by choosing I'm a humanities kid. So tell me about how identity can limit the choices that we have before us.
Greatly limit, yeah. It's things we tell ourselves,
Mm.
or we, with this inner voice, continuously repeat, and they could be tame or loud, or not maybe always as present, but they are very influential. And at this day and age, with careers being in flux, career paths being in flux, and in fact, the opportunity to do maybe something that's a little bit tangential or exotic in your example, or you thought was exotic, is not so exotic anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually within your reach only if you can have this malleable notion of your own identity as it comes to work, and not so malleable when it comes to self, because it's one self. And I think work in its own kind of shape and form can encompass multiple industries, multiple skill sets going forward.
Yeah, and how do you, I guess, balance those two things, the sense of work and sense of self, when you're kind of going through that transitionary period where you're looking to pick up new skills?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like this is an easy thing to do, because it's not. But I think the intention to experiment and expose yourself to the influence and feedback of a different type of function, different industry, different, maybe slightly stretched situation in your work where you might not be 100% comfortable, is really important. It's almost experimenting with yourself in a safe and proactive way, where you choose the experiments, and thus you're open to feedback and learning that comes from it. So in my case, the work in studio, I ran two experiments by being for extended period of time in studio alone. And I know how difficult and unsurmountable it was for me. So, when it came to deciding that that's not going to be my vocation, it was an informed decision through those many experiments. Now, can those experiments be a bit longer? Did I need more information? That's individual. I think we all need to kind of construct experiments we take something from, and can reach a decision point.
Yeah, I really like this idea of almost like little career experiments that we do to kind of get an idea of, what we like to do, what we don't like to do. And I think it's something that in the school system, maybe we kind of don't do enough of. I remember in my university experience, I was very lucky to do a program that focused on professionalization and sort of the career applicability. But I would look around at other people, and they didn't have that part of the program that was saying, take this, turn it into that, and you're capable, you can do this, this is who you are, this is what you're bringing to the world. So thinking about our graduates right now who are coming out of these big programs, whether it's a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, whatever it is, what advice might you give to them in regards to this idea of balancing work and self?
It's a marketplace, and it's supply and demand and differentiation. So degree or your core hard skills, technical programming, accounting, uh, you know, are necessary, and it's a baseline, but it's not going to be a differentiator between you and, let's say, another candidate. And then acquiring skills that are more self, or would maybe call soft in business: presentation, point of view, relatability, taste. Um, those are harder to acquire, or harder to acquire in a formalized way. There is no school that's necessarily teaching those skills in a way that are almost necessary right now in the marketplace. So how do you acquire them? Well, run these experiments. Expose yourself to a situation where that particular soft skill is something you can improve on in a safe way, in a comfortable way.
Yeah, and I think that's, something that you kind of have to own for yourself. You kind of have to put yourself through it, and you have to kind of create your own structure. And I think that's quite a challenging concept for a lot of people, because we have so many institutions that, teach us how to learn or how to, progress or whatever. But I think what you're saying is that you need to own it for yourself. You need to create the life that you want to live.
Yeah, and I think it's the baseline of the entire career coaching industry. But at this day and age, especially with the AI disruption we're all witnessing, there's this notion of a career operating system.
Mm.
And it's a holistic thing. It has obviously your career audit, your kind of accomplishments, your education on one side, but on the other, it has these differentiated softer skills that are actually maybe even more important to thrive in this kind of industry with intelligence in our pocket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really powerful thing to recognize that this time of disruption presents both a challenge to ourselves and our sense of identity and what work is and what it's doing, but also, and I think we've talked about this before, it creates an opportunity to actually reset, to take stock of our situation, to look at, am I enjoying this? And I think we saw a lot of that after COVID, of this mass migration back to the office, and people were really resistant to it. They didn't want to go back because they said, well, I'm close to my family. I'm close to the things that I care about. Why would I sacrifice that? So in this time of disruption, what do you think is, like, for somebody who's starting to get into this, who's starting to trying to understand who they are and what they want to do? What's the kind of foundational first step to take here?
I would start small. I would start by taking stock of, obviously, core skills, work-related career path to date, and then try to directionally isolate where I want to go, and then how much is that in tune with my natural talents and abilities, and almost ask and answer the question, is this my true calling? If I had to switch this job or this job function, will I switch my vocation, or will I still stay true to what I've determined my path looks like? So for instance, I am this feedback craving, entrepreneurial, techie person. That can be part of many different paths and jobs, and I'm still staying true to myself. But how do I get there, and what experiments I construct are incremental and small.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to be part of some kind of system that's obviously built on this feedback reinforcement mechanism, where I have an opportunity to course correct, adjust, and it doesn't have to be perfect or a quantum leap from step one. It's actually day by day.
Yeah, I think from the career coach angle, we do a lot of that transformation work, and it's iterative. We think we've talked before about trusting the process, and it's not easy, and it takes a long time. You have to invest in it, you have to believe in it, and part of it is you have to do it before you see the results.
100% agree.
And I think that can be a very challenging thing for people who are used to getting that immediate feedback, who are used to, in the workplace, there's always KPIs, there's always measurements, but it's like, how do we measure ourselves? How do we create those structures for ourselves?
Yeah, and there's natural biases at play. I think how we think about ourselves and our abilities, you can be surprised. You can do much more than you think you can. And try it. Try a mini version of it. So that's why I think the traditional career path versus career path that's at your fingertips right now is a different thinking game.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've talked a lot this episode about the idea of developing your own identity and investing in that process. And I think that comes down to that word that we love so much, which is alignment. Being aligned through your identity, whether that's on the work side, which is about your skills, about the kind of work that you do every day, the industry, the sector, what you involve yourself in, but also the self and what you're about, what your personal values are, what differentiates you from the next human being. And one of the things that I always come back to is that human experience is so complex, it's so individual. And when we tap into that individuality, that can be a very powerful foundation for talking about some of those skills that you mentioned, things like discernment, taste, texture, storytelling. These are all like really bound up in our identity.
Yeah, and it ensures that if you do get a job switch or even an industry switch, you still stay true and happy to your core. And that doesn't go away. And in this accelerated time when, jobs are likely to change and functions are likely to change in a more accelerated way, I think that's very valuable.
Totally. Yeah, the future doesn't belong to the most skilled. It belongs to people who can learn, adapt, and stay aligned while doing it. So next episode, we're going to go into habits, rituals, and the body, and why change doesn't stick without them. Thank you, Wolf. And until then, stay well and keep closing your loops.